Alexandra Reynolds stood on the rooftop terrace of Blackstone Aerospace, 40 stories above Chicago's gleaming skyline. The April wind whipped her tailored pantsuit as she gazed across the cityscape she had conquered at 42. Her phone buzzed. The IPO meeting started in 5 minutes. She tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear and took one last look at the horizon. There are moments that define your life. For me, it wasn't becoming the youngest CEO of Blackstone Aerospace. It was when my plane crashed into a lake on an April afternoon. The boardroom fell silent as Alexandra strode in. 12 men in identical suits straightened as she took her seat at the head of the mahogany table. Presentations flashed on screens. Market projections, valuation estimates, investor profiles. Her empire, built over 15 years of relentless work, was about to go public at $8 billion. The safety record improvements are particularly impressive, noted Charles Weber, head of the IPO committee. 0 incidents in the last 5 years. Alexandra nodded, her expression controlled. Safety is non-negotiable at Blackstone. Later that night, Alexandra's heels clicked across the marble floor of her penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased Chicago's glittering panorama. She placed her Hermes bag on the counter and poured a glass of Cabernet. Dinner was waiting in the refrigerator, a gourmet meal for one. No photographs adorned her walls, just carefully selected abstract art. Achievements surrounded her. Companionship did not. 500 miles away at Lakeside, Montana, Ryan Matthews knelt beside an old fishing boat, his hands darkened with engine grease. At 40, the lines around his eyes had deepened, but they were laugh lines, etched by genuine smiles rather than boardroom politics. His faded jeans and flannel shirt had seen better days. "Dad, look what I found!" 9-year-old Lucas ran down the dock, an antique compass in his small hands, his inhaler tucked securely in his pocket. Ryan wiped his hands on a rag. "Where'd you find that, buddy?" "In that box in the attic with Mom's things." Lucas's eyes, so like Sarah's, sparkled with curiosity. "It still works." Ryan gently took the compass, remembering how Sarah had used it on their honeymoon hiking trip. "It sure does. Your mom would be happy you found it." Their cabin stood nestled among tall pines, modest but solid. Inside, engineering textbooks lined shelves alongside children's novels. On the kitchen table, Lucas had spread out his latest project, a model airplane with intricate details only someone with genuine aerospace knowledge would include. That evening, they ate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on the porch, watching the sunset turn the lake to gold. Lucas pointed to a bird soaring overhead. "Do you ever miss designing planes, Dad?" Ryan's expression softened. "Sometimes, but I've got more important things to focus on now." Lucas leaned against his father's shoulder. "Mom would have liked this sunset." Ryan's arm tightened around his son. "She sure would, buddy." The following afternoon, Alexandra sat in her private jet, reviewing IPO documents as they soared over Montana's mountains. The sleek Gulfstream G650 represented everything Blackstone stood for: precision, luxury, achievement. Suddenly, the plane lurched. Warning lights flashed red across the cockpit. The intercom crackled with the pilot's tense voice. "Ms. Reynolds, we've got a hydraulic system failure. We're making an emergency landing at the nearest body of water." Alexandra's knuckles whitened around her armrest. The plane descended rapidly, mountains giving way to forests, then a gleaming lake. On the shore below, Lucas pointed skyward. "Dad, a plane. Something's wrong." Ryan shaded his eyes, recognizing the distinctive silhouette of a Blackstone jet. Black smoke trailed from the right engine as the aircraft tilted at a sickening angle. His engineer's mind calculated the trajectory, the likely point of impact. "Lucas, stay here," he commanded, already running toward the boat. The jet hit the water 200 yards offshore. The impact sent a column of spray skyward, followed by the hiss of hot metal meeting cold water. Ryan gunned the boat's engine, heading straight toward the rapidly sinking fuselage. Without hesitation, he dove into the water. Fuel slicked the surface, the acrid smell burning his nostrils as he swam through the murky cloud. The cockpit was already half submerged. Ryan yanked at the shattered window, ignoring the glass slicing his palms. Inside, a woman was slumped forward, safety belt still fastened, a gash across her forehead. He cut through the belt with his pocket knife and pulled her free just as water flooded the cockpit. Alexandra coughed violently as Ryan dragged her to shore. Her eyes fluttered open, meeting his. For a moment, neither spoke. Savior and saved, linked by circumstance. "Thank you," she whispered, water dripping from her hair. "Just did what anyone would do," Ryan replied, not meeting her gaze. She didn't recognize him. How could she? 6 years and a world of difference separated the senior engineering director she'd never personally met from the bearded man in wet clothes who'd just saved her life. Lucas ran down to the shore, inhaler clutched in his hand. "Dad, is she okay?" Ryan nodded, helping Alexandra to sit up. "She'll be all right, buddy. Go call 911. As Lucas ran to make the call, Alexandra studied Ryan's face. "Do I know you?" "No," he said firmly. "You don't." The next morning, Ryan stood in his small kitchen, brewing coffee in a dented percolator. On the television in the corner, a news anchor spoke urgently about a miraculous survival. The screen showed aerial footage of rescue boats circling the crash site. "Billionaire CEO survives jet crash," the banner read. Ryan turned it off. 6 years earlier, Ryan had been senior engineering director at Blackstone Aerospace. He discovered a critical flaw in the hydraulic control system, the same system that had failed yesterday. He'd written reports, sent emails, flagged it in meetings. His supervisor had smiled and told him not to worry. 3 months later, during a test flight over the Nevada desert, the system failed. The aircraft exploded midair. The pilot survived, ejecting before the blast. But Ryan's wife, Sarah, who had been visiting the observation tower that day with other families, did not. The shock wave shattered the tower's west wall where she stood, holding 3-year-old Lucas's hand. Ryan had resigned the next day. No severance, no apology, just a non-disclosure agreement and a settlement for Sarah's death that barely covered the funeral costs. Blackstone called it a tragic accident, an unforeseeable catastrophic failure. They never admitted fault, so he had left with his son and driven north until the roads turned to gravel. He'd bought this cabin with their savings and started over, fixing engines for locals and teaching Lucas about the stars, the weather, and kindness in an unkind world. 3 black Cadillacs appeared at Ryan's cabin later that day, their polished exteriors incongruous against the rustic setting. Alexandra stepped out, a small bandage on her temple, the only evidence of yesterday's crash. "I wanted to thank you personally," she said, extending her hand. Her grip was firm, professional, the kind of handshake that closed deals and ended arguments. Ryan nodded but said little. Behind Alexandra, 2 assistants emerged with folders and tablets. One held an envelope thick with cash. "We'd like to offer compensation for your bravery," the assistant said, "and we'll need you to sign a non-disclosure agreement, standard procedure." Ryan's jaw tightened. "I don't want money, and I don't sign things anymore." Alexandra tilted her head, studying him with newfound curiosity. "You're not even slightly interested in why my plane went down?" "Not my business." "It could have been sabotage," she pressed, watching his reaction. "The FAA is investigating. Someone might have tampered with the hydraulic systems." Ryan's expression remained neutral, but his shoulders tensed almost imperceptibly. Alexandra glanced past him toward the open cabin door. Inside, she could see simple furniture, a stack of firewood, and a corkboard covered with technical drawings. Her eyes narrowed as she focused on a blueprint in the corner. The Blackstone logo was unmistakable. At that moment, Lucas appeared in the doorway, a model airplane clutched in his hands. "Dad, who are they?" Ryan's voice softened instantly. "Just some people passing through, buddy." But Alexandra was staring at the model in Lucas's hands, a perfect miniature of the Blackstone AX-7, a prototype Ryan had worked on before leaving the company. "I know you," she said quietly. Ryan's eyes met hers. "No, you don't." She didn't press further, but as she returned to her car, the puzzle pieces were already shifting in her mind. By nightfall, Ryan's simple life had begun to unravel. Someone had leaked video of the rescue, a blurry recording from a hiker who captured the moment Ryan dove into the lake. Within hours, news vans appeared in the small town, reporters knocking on doors, asking neighbors about the mysterious hero. But the story quickly twisted. Headlines shifted from celebration to speculation. Hero or setup? Questions surround CEO rescue. Was Billionaire lured to remote lake? In the local diner, Ryan heard whispers as he and Lucas ate breakfast. A woman pulled her daughter closer as they passed. At the garage where Ryan worked part-time, his boss reluctantly asked him to take some time off until this blows over. That evening, Lucas returned from school with red-rimmed eyes. "Dad," he whispered, "why are people saying you're bad?" Ryan knelt before his son, heartbreaking. "Sometimes people get scared of things they don't understand. It'll pass." "Will it?" Ryan couldn't promise something he didn't believe. Rain hammered the cabin roof that night. Ryan sat at the kitchen table reviewing their dwindling savings, wondering how long they could last if no one would hire him. The phone rang, an unusual occurrence this late. "Mr. Matthews, this is Alexandra Reynolds." Ryan's grip tightened. "How did you get this number?" "I have resources. I need to see you tonight. It's important." "I don't think that's a good idea. Lucas has asthma, doesn't he?" Ryan's blood went cold. "What are you talking about?" A crash came from Lucas's room, followed by a choked, gasping sound. Ryan dropped the phone and ran. Lucas was sitting up in bed, clutching his chest, face pale and sweaty. Each breath came as a shallow, desperate wheeze. Ryan grabbed the inhaler from the nightstand and pressed it to Lucas's lips. Nothing. Empty. He tore through the bathroom cabinet. The backup inhaler wasn't there. Lucas's lips were turning blue. Panic clawed at Ryan's throat as he scooped his son up and ran for the door. But before he reached it, headlights flooded the driveway. The black Cadillac skidded to a stop. Alexandra jumped out, rain soaking her silk blouse. "Get in," she commanded. Ryan didn't hesitate. He climbed into the back seat, cradling Lucas against his chest. Alexandra slid behind the wheel and gunned the engine. The car roared down the dirt road, headlights cutting through the darkness. "How did you know?" Ryan demanded. "I read your personnel file," Alexandra replied, eyes fixed on the treacherous, rain-slicked road. "Medical insurance claims for Lucas's condition." The drive should have taken 40 minutes. Alexandra made it in 25, blowing through red lights, the Cadillac's powerful engine straining as she pushed it to its limits. At the emergency room, nurses rushed forward with a gurney. Ryan laid Lucas down, hands shaking uncontrollably as a doctor hooked the boy to a nebulizer. Gradually, his breathing steadied. Ryan sank into a plastic chair in the hallway, head in his hands. Alexandra stood nearby, soaked from the rain. She didn't speak. She simply stayed. An hour later, the doctor emerged. "He's stable. We'll keep him overnight, but he's going to be fine." Ryan walked into the room and sat beside his son's bed. Lucas's eyes were half closed, the oxygen mask fogging with each breath. "I'm here, buddy," Ryan whispered, gripping his small hand. Alexandra appeared in the doorway, 2 cups of vending machine coffee in hand. She offered one to Ryan, who accepted with a nod of thanks. "How did you know to come tonight?" he asked. "I didn't," she admitted. "I was coming to talk to you. The timing was..." Providential. Ryan studied her face. Why would the CEO of Blackstone drive through a storm to talk to me? Alexandra met his gaze directly. Because I found your warnings, 7 separate communications about the hydraulic control system, all ignored. Ryan looked away. That was another life. A life where you were right, and where Blackstone was wrong. Alexandra hesitated. I also found the incident report from Nevada. Your wife. I'm so sorry. Ryan's expression hardened. Sorry doesn't change anything. No, she agreed softly. But the truth might. 3 days later, Ryan and Alexandra sat in a private room at the Lakeside Inn, far from prying eyes. Lucas was recovering at home, watched over by Mrs. Larson from next door. On the table between them lay a small USB drive. Everything I kept, Ryan explained. The warnings, the emails, the proof of what happened 6 years ago. Alexandra connected it to her laptop. The screen illuminated with files, emails with subject lines like urgent hydraulic system review needed and safety concerns, no response. Scanned pages of handwritten notes, technical drawings with annotations in red ink, photographs of cracked metal components, test data showing failure rates far above acceptable thresholds. You tried to stop it, Alexandra whispered. 7 times, Ryan confirmed. Each time, I was told the same thing. We'll look into it. Then 3 months later, Alexandra opened another file, a memo from the engineering director to the executive team. Minor technical issue flagged by junior engineer. Cost of recall estimated at $2.3 billion. Recommend internal review only. Junior engineer, she asked incredulously. You were senior director. Downplaying the messenger downplays the message, Ryan said bitterly. Alexandra clicked open a scanned approval form. At the bottom, a signature in blue ink. Walter Reynolds. My uncle, she breathed, color draining from her face. He signed off on this. Ryan nodded slowly. To avoid a recall would have cost Blackstone billions, so he buried my reports and pushed the aircraft into production. And when that wasn't enough, he made sure the person who warned them couldn't warn anyone else, Ryan finished. They fired me the day after the explosion, told me if I talked, they'd sue me into oblivion. Alexandra stood abruptly, pacing to the window. Rain streaked the glass. If I go public with this, she said slowly, it'll destroy the company. Thousands will lose their jobs. My family's name will be ruined. Ryan's voice cut through her thoughts. And if you don't, more people will die. Alexandra turned to face him. Their eyes met in silent understanding. Then I know what I have to do. Back in Chicago, Alexandra worked tirelessly, digging through archived files. She hired Dr. Miranda Chen, an independent forensic engineer with impeccable credentials, to review Ryan's evidence. Together, they spent nights analyzing flight data, metallurgical reports, and maintenance records. These hydraulic components show consistent stress fracturing patterns, Dr. Chen pointed out, magnifying images on her lab screen. And look at this. Your jet's failure patterns are identical to the test flight that crashed in Nevada. Could someone intentionally cause this? Alexandra asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Someone with intimate knowledge of this flaw could easily trigger a catastrophic failure that would appear accidental, Dr. Chen confirmed, removing her glasses. Ms. Reynolds, this wasn't bad luck. Someone tried to kill you. The next morning, Alexandra received an encrypted message from Dr. Chen. Lab broken into last night. Evidence missing. Hard drives wiped. Be careful. That evening, Walter Reynolds entered Alexandra's office without knocking. At 62, he carried himself with the confidence of a man accustomed to power. His silver hair and tailored suit projected authority, but his eyes were cold. Working late again, Alexandra? The IPO is in 3 weeks. You should be focused on that, not... He gestured dismissively at the stack of engineering reports on her desk. Just doing my due diligence, she replied evenly. Walter's smile didn't reach his eyes. I heard about your little Montana adventure. Quite the coincidence. Crashing right where a former employee could play hero. Alexandra met his gaze. Quite. The board is concerned about these distractions, Walter continued, especially your interest in historical matters. History has a way of repeating itself if we're not careful, Alexandra replied. Walter's expression hardened. Focus on the future, Alexandra. The past is buried for good reason. After he left, Alexandra called Ryan. My plane crash wasn't an accident, she said without preamble. It was attempted murder. Over the next 2 weeks, an unlikely partnership formed. Alexandra visited Lakeside on weekends, officially to recuperate from her ordeal. In reality, she was building a case. She helped Lucas with his science project on aerodynamics, showing a patience few had witnessed in the boardroom. Ryan explained the technical details of the hydraulic systems, translating engineering jargon into evidence that would stand up in court. During a quiet moment by the lake, Alexandra confessed, I never knew what happened beneath me. The pressure to be the only woman in the room. I focused on proving myself, not questioning the foundation. Ryan nodded. We all have blind spots. Mine was believing in a system that valued profit over people. Lucas, building a paper airplane nearby, looked up. Dad never goes on dates. He says his heart flew away. Lucas! Ryan protested, embarrassed. Alexandra smiled, showing Lucas how to fold a better wing. Sometimes things that are broken can still fly. Their growing connection didn't go unnoticed. Walter hired private investigators to follow Alexandra. When she returned to Chicago, she found her office had been searched, files rearranged. Dr. Chen called in a panic one night. Someone broke into my lab. The evidence, it's gone. The following evening, during another Montana thunderstorm, the power to Ryan's cabin was mysteriously cut. Lucas, fighting a mild asthma attack, couldn't use his electric nebulizer. When Alexandra arrived for their scheduled meeting, she found them in darkness, Lucas struggling to breathe. She drove them to her hotel suite in town. As Lucas slept peacefully in the bedroom, Ryan and Alexandra faced a moment of truth at the small dining table. He's targeting you, Alexandra said quietly. Because of me. Ryan shook his head. He's targeting us both because of the truth. I've scheduled a board meeting for next Monday, Alexandra revealed. I'm presenting everything. Walter will destroy you. Probably, she agreed, but some things are worth losing everything for. She reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. The gesture, simple human, spoke volumes. Their fingers intertwined briefly, a bridge forming across the chasm of their different worlds. Walter confronted her the next day at Blackstone headquarters. End this investigation now, he demanded, or you'll lose everything you've built. Alexandra stood her ground. Is that a threat? It's reality, Walter snapped. You'll throw away your career for what? Some failed engineer with a grudge? Is he worth everything you've worked for? Alexandra's voice was steady. He has more integrity than all of us combined. The Blackstone board meeting convened at 8 o'clock Monday morning. Executives in tailored suits filled the conference room, tablets open, coffee cups steaming. Walter sat at the head of the table, expression confident. Alexandra entered last, carrying a slim leather folder. The morning sun streamed through the windows as she connected her tablet to the display screen. I've called this emergency meeting to address a critical safety issue, she began. If this is about the Montana incident, the FAA has already cleared us, Walter interjected smoothly. This goes far beyond one incident, Alexandra replied. She pressed a button on her tablet. Live video suddenly appeared on every screen in the room, and on every Blackstone employee's computer throughout the building. Alexandra had bypassed the usual closed-door protocol, broadcasting the meeting company-wide. Walter half rose. "What are you doing?" Alexandra's voice remained calm. Ensuring transparency, she displayed the first document, an email dated 6 years and 4 months ago. The subject line read, "Hydraulic failure risk, immediate action required." The sender, Ryan Matthews. A murmur rippled through the executives. Alexandra clicked to the next slide, a photograph of a cracked hydraulic component. Then another email, this one from Walter himself. "Bury this. We're not recalling 50 aircraft over a minor flaw. Production continues as scheduled." One board member stood abruptly. "These documents, if they're authentic, they're real," Alexandra confirmed. She displayed the scanned approval form bearing Walter's signature, followed by the incident report from the Nevada test flight. "One civilian fatality," she read aloud. "Rebecca Sarah Matthews." Alexandra switched to a photograph, a smiling woman holding a toddler's hand. "This isn't about numbers or liability or stock prices," she said quietly. "This is about real people whose lives were destroyed." Walter slammed his hand on the table. "You're going to ruin this company, everything we've built, everything your father worked for." "No, Uncle Walter," Alexandra replied evenly. "You did that when you chose profit over lives." She placed her company ID card on the table. "I'm stepping down as CEO, effective immediately. I've contacted the FAA. They'll be opening a full investigation." Walter's face reddened. "You think you're some kind of hero? This makes you better than me?" "No," Alexandra said quietly. "I'm just finally choosing the right side." The conference room doors opened. Ryan Matthews stood there with Lucas at his side. "Mr. Matthews has something to say," Alexandra announced. Ryan walked forward, his presence transforming the room. Gone was the bearded recluse. In his place stood the brilliant engineer in a simple but dignified suit, his bearing confident but not arrogant. "I'm not here for vengeance," he said quietly. "I'm here for accountability." Lucas stepped forward, holding his model airplane. "I fixed it," he announced to the silent room. "Dad showed me how the hydraulic lines should really go." With childlike clarity, he explained the flaw that had been ignored, making the complex issue understandable to everyone present. Walter attempted to discredit Ryan, suggesting personal motivations and questionable expertise. When he attacked Alexandra's technical knowledge, Ryan unexpectedly defended her. "Ms. Reynolds understood what truly matters," he stated firmly, "that people are more important than profit margins." By meeting's end, Walter stormed out alone while several board members approached Ryan to offer personal apologies. The IPO was postponed, and an independent investigative committee was established. Outside the building, reporters swarmed. Alexandra faced them steadily. "Blackstone Aerospace is committed to complete transparency in this matter," she stated. "We will cooperate fully with all investigations and make whatever changes are necessary to ensure the absolute safety of our aircraft." A reporter pushed forward. "What about Walter Reynolds?" "That's for the authorities to determine," she replied. 3 months later, the FAA investigation confirmed Ryan's warnings. Blackstone stock plummeted as the scandal unfolded. Alexandra resigned her position to join the independent investigation, using her insider knowledge to ensure nothing was overlooked. Walter faced criminal charges for negligence and fraud. Though his high-powered attorneys would battle for years, his reputation was irreparably damaged. Media coverage was relentless. Aviation experts dissected the scandal on television. Victims' families from previous incidents came forward. Congressional hearings were announced. The story became a symbol of corporate greed versus public safety. Alexandra established the Sarah Matthews Foundation to support whistleblowers and victims of corporate negligence. She invited Ryan to become Blackstone's new director of safety and compliance. with unprecedented authority to approve or halt any design. I need to be with Lucas, he declined initially. My son comes first. The night before a crucial hearing, Lucas sat with his father on their porch. If you help them fix the planes, he asked thoughtfully, would Mom be happy? Ryan's throat tightened. I think she would, buddy. Then you should do it, Lucas decided. We can still live here. Ms. Reynolds said so. Ryan accepted the position with conditions. He would work remotely 3 days a week from Montana. The board, eager to rebuild Blackstone's shattered reputation, agreed to every term. In a private moment, Ryan showed Alexandra Sarah's photo album. She always said, do the right thing, no matter how much it hurts. Alexandra touched his hand briefly. She would be proud of you. Her fingers lingered against his, and for the first time since Sarah died, Ryan didn't pull away. Something new and fragile took root between them, not replacing what was lost, but growing alongside the memory. 1 year later, the Sarah Matthews Center for Aviation Safety opened on Blackstone's redesigned campus. The building, constructed with sustainable materials and filled with natural light, stood as a testament to a new corporate philosophy. Alexandra, no longer CEO but still a significant shareholder, delivered the opening address. A company is more than balance sheets and stock prices, she told the assembled crowd. It's a community of people with responsibilities to each other and to the public we serve. Ryan had developed a revolutionary new safety protocol, dividing his time between Chicago headquarters and his lakeside home. Lucas, now 10, had won a science fair with a model demonstrating improved hydraulic systems. He stood proudly between Ryan and Alexandra, holding both their hands as the ribbon was cut. Walter, facing years of litigation, had vanished from public life. The board members who had enabled him were gone, replaced by aviation experts and safety advocates. The Sarah Matthews Foundation had already helped dozens of corporate whistleblowers come forward with critical safety information. We prevented at least 3 potential disasters, Alexandra told reporters. Each life saved honors Sarah's memory. After the ceremony, Ryan, Alexandra, and Lucas returned to the cabin by the lake. The afternoon sun painted the water gold as Lucas practiced skipping stones. I never properly thanked you, Ryan said quietly. For what? For risking everything. For believing me when no one else would. Alexandra watched Lucas attempt to fold a paper airplane. I think we saved each other. Ryan's expression softened. Alexandra, I can't replace what you gave up. And I can't replace Sarah, she replied gently. But perhaps we can build something new. She reached for his hand, and this time he took it without hesitation. Their fingers intertwined, a silent promise. They joined Lucas at the shore. Each took a paper airplane he had carefully folded. On 3, they released them into the wind. The simple craft soared upward, catching the breeze, flying farther than seemed possible. Lucas beamed. Dad, I think your heart is flying again. Ryan's eyes met Alexandra's, a smile passing between them that held both certainty and promise. He leaned forward and kissed her gently, a beginning rather than an ending. I think you're right, buddy, he said, his arm slipping around Alexandra's waist as she rested her head against his shoulder. As the sun set over the lake, their silhouettes merged into a single family shape against the golden light. Different paths had brought them to this shore. Pain had shaped them, truth had freed them, and now together they had taken flight. That night, as Lucas slept, Ryan and Alexandra sat on the porch swing, wrapped in a blanket against the mountain chill. Stars reflected in the still water of the lake. What happens now? Alexandra asked. Ryan smiled. We build something honest, something that lasts. She nodded, understanding completely. A life where we never have to choose between truth and happiness. Sarah used to say that real love gives you wings, Ryan whispered. I think she'd approve of this. Alexandra squeezed his hand. I promise to keep you both flying. Sometimes success isn't what you thought. It's the courage to speak truth. It's rebuilding from ashes. And sometimes it's a second chance to love.